So, anyways, the Saints come into the restaurant. We greet one another warmly, as we always do per our culture. We have a bit of small talk. I ask them how they're getting on as far as the ladies go. And one of the gentlemen shares that, he'd been doing some good work. And recently, he had a situation where he approached two Vietnamese women, and there were three of them. And as he approached this Vietnamese woman, a European woman came up from behind and said, "Hey, you're being creepy." Was I talking to you? Was I talking to you, European white lady? No, I was not. So he turns around like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you're being creepy. Stop bothering them." And when he recounted this to me, I really wish I was there, because these kinds of situations I quite relish, because the gentleman in question, very good brother, positive, just a beautiful spirit to this brother, the kind of person that makes you smile when you see him or even when you speak of him. Beautiful brother. Me, I like slapping helmets off, especially like one of these cocky, arrogant Europeans. I like putting them in their place because they cause havoc in the world. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because the seriousness of what this woman did. I want you guys to really journey with me, if you would. In my book, The Black Box, I describe a number of pivotal moments in my life. What you might not realize is that sometimes a moment can change your trajectory. Yes, it's true. There are moments that can impact where you go in life and how quickly or how slowly you get there. Let us not underestimate the importance of love and companionship. It is a critical aspect of human life and happiness, and the continuation of the human species itself. When imagine a woman whom you don't know at all steps in, impositions you, inserts herself where she is unwanted and unwelcomed, insults you, and takes away an opportunity from you. It is a serious matter, and we also need to understand the underlying mentality that she had that caused her to do that. I asked for the details surrounding the situation. Who was she with? So she was with her boyfriend and another guy. So, okay, cool. I was like, and he didn't say anything. He just let her stay out of pocket like that, huh? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay. I said, you know what? I would have spit in Shorty's face, because she's a subhuman and she deserves that. But just imagine the psyche and the arrogance of a small white woman telling a big black man whom he's allowed to talk to, yes, whom he's allowed to talk to, what he is allowed to do in a foreign country that is not even her own. You got a white woman in Vietnam thinking she's running things when she is unable to even protect herself. She's dictating. This is an extraordinarily foul thing. I tell you, if I was in that situation and, my good fortune, it's hard to sometimes react in the spur of the moment. So we can all say what we would have done, but I can tell you I'm logging this one in, and my instinct will be to spit dead in this woman's face. And you might say, Marquette, is that what you recommend? Absolutely not. I don't recommend that to anyone. I'm telling you what I would do and will do, because that was a good brother. But me personally, I couldn't take this level of disrespect. I would have spit dead in her face. The only tragedy is that I wouldn't have had time to hawk a loogie, because you want to be pretty quick with things like that in case she has cat-like reflexes like Floyd Mayweather. So anyways, they described that to me, and I was really disturbed. Number one, she has a colonial mentality and is exercising it upon someone that I respect and care about. Gets me angry. I told him, if you see her or that guy, call me up. I'm going to spit in her face, and I'm going to dare him to do something after it, and I'm going to pack him up straight like that. You see? And then I explained something to them. And again, I'm not recommending this. I'm just telling you what I would do. If you've never been the supervillain, you've never been the bad guy, you really underestimate the infinite amount of gray area in between getting in trouble and escaping consequence. So with regards to this particular situation, one thing the gentleman had mentioned, he says, I bet if all the saints were with us, this would have never happened. I say, you're 100% correct. And that's why we always say within this culture of ours, the more the merrier. I don't care if you're on a date with your old lady. Um, I'm joining. Like it should be like that. We should be welcome and live in family together. Now, if it's your honeymoon or your wedding night, then that's a different thing. But otherwise, it should be the more the merrier. Good women stay in pocket, and real bosses always meet at the round table. And so it's always the more the merrier. And here's why: the wicked are cowardly, and they will take every opportunity to accost those that they think they can defeat, or those who are just too happy to engage a beef with them. You see, the saint that she tried to bother and basically cock block, he's a happy guy. He basically just like, I forget about you and moved on, which is what a happy person does. Happy people don't really engage with those who are filthy, low individuals. You see, if you lay down with dogs, you come up with fleas. So you tend to avoid these persons so that you can associate with those who are like you. I get that. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Me personally, I think we got to vanquish some of these demons. We can't let them just run around all free like. But what I want you to understand is this: I was talking about that gray area in between experiencing consequence and escaping consequence. I always go through a rational decision tree and calculate what are the likelihood of different outcomes and can I deal with that. So I ask myself, if I was proceeding to spit game to some Vietnamese women and then some, degenerate animal of a European woman, probably a filthy cigarette smoker from one of her genocidal countries, turns and says, "Hey, you're a creeper." I'm like, whoa, whoa, hold. You're the only creepy person on earth. Like, you guys shouldn't even be welcome here. Last time you guys were here, it was all bad. We had to take decades to get you out of here. You're an animal to me. And I would have spit in her face because she's a subhuman. Then once I spit in her face, I would have instantly had my hands up ready to pack out her man, who's probably a Skittle guzzler, because all those European dudes are mostly pretty effeminate, unless they're from a real country. Shout out to my Poles, pretty civil men over there. And shout out to the saints in Europe. But most of them are very effeminate weaklings. So I'd, let him know, like, you want this in your life? And he would have folded and cowered. And if he didn't, I would have proceeded to try my best to, rearrange his face and remove the beauty from it such that it would be a face only a mother could love. And I would do my best to give him my worst as quickly as possible. And then I would flee the scene like a thief in the night. And if necessary, I'd consider even flying out, but it probably wouldn't be necessary. And here's why. In the rational decision tree, calculating what are the likely possibilities, number one, she probably wouldn't have pulled this on me because I probably just don't look as jovial and up-tempo as the homie. Like, bro is like a very up-tempo, beautiful spirit. Number two, if she did try this on me, I would have turned up and spit in her face off rip. Now that her face has been spit in, is she going to try to like throw a punch or get physical? Nah, because the white women are all talk. Now, if it was a wildebeest of a woman, one of these Black American women, the kind that'll run her mouth, not a good Black woman, but the kind that runs her mouth. Now, she would have probably need to get packed out. But the white woman, she does evil and then tries to hide her hand and act shocked. These are the types that they cause an issue and then call the police when you react. So she wouldn't have done anything. She'd have probably looked at doofus that she was with. And we know that he's a weakling and a doofus because real men don't let their women take lead. It's not appropriate. Real women don't want to take lead. So I would have looked at him and I would have packed him up if he'd even moved a muscle. If he'd even opened his mouth, I'd have packed him straight up. Now, here's the thing. Okay, Marquett, you just packed up 2 Europeans in Vietnam. Now, what are the chances that 2 Europeans know the number to 911 in Vietnam? What are the chances that they know the number to 911 in Vietnam, which is to say emergency services, police emergency services? It's very low. Now, let's say they did know the number to 911, right? Well, what are the chances that they have cellular data in Vietnam? Pretty low. Most of the Europeans are the poor Europeans. They stay in hostels. They're low income. So they probably didn't have cellular service. They're probably just using Wi-Fi. So probably doesn't even know the number to 911 or emergency police services. Probably doesn't have cellular service. And let's say they did have the number to emergency police services and they did have cellular service and they took some steps back. She took some steps back while I was packing out her man and decided to hop on the horn. What are the chances that they knew precisely where they were located and they could describe it clearly to someone in Vietnam who would understand it clearly? And then in addition to that, be able to dispatch a police officer to arrive on time before I left to a highly populated area where there's only foot traffic. Very low. Very, very low. So the point is that the chances of experiencing consequences were minuscule. No one would have helped them. People would have stared in shock. After all, we're in a third world country. They see some wild stuff here and there. I have a Vietnamese friend. She tells me when people periodically call the police because a man is, disciplining his wife, the police mostly won't show up. And if they do, they say, hey, that's your personal issue. Please don't call again. So I highly doubt that for some like big mouth European broad, they're about to show up and do anything. So I think the chances of getting away with that clean are extraordinarily high, very, very high. And I would have taken those chances happily. I've taken much worse gambles in life. That's an easy one. So yeah, I would have spit in her face. If she would have moved a muscle, I would have, invented a new P slap that'd park her like a Cadillac. If her man wanted to get froggy and leap, I would have laid him down. And then I would have, walked off like George Jefferson. Now, do I recommend that? No, I don't recommend that, but I do recommend that you be meaner is important. I recommend that you remember more the merrier, which is to say we need to travel in tribes. We travel in tribes. And what I remind the saints, and this is a culture that we really have to push harder, is that when you travel in large numbers, you don't move faster, you move stronger. And a lot of individuals, they're lacking discipline, they're lacking structure and hierarchy, and hopefully, God willing, we can instill that. It is exhausting, but everyone wants to do their own thing. Everyone wants to be chief in general and chief of themselves, not realizing the greatest leader is a great follower, the greatest teacher is a great student. And you may want to go do X, Y, and Z, but we need to move as a unit, as a family, and we need to move stronger, not faster. You can move faster by yourself, but you're weaker. And we need to move strongly. Bro said, but what would Jesus do? Jesus wasn't socking shit out. You hear me? Like, I'm socking shit out. So like, I couldn't tell you what Jesus would do. Frankly, I don't care what Jesus would do. Jesus wasn't socking shit out. If he had hands like this, maybe he'd be putting the beats on people. But I tell you what the big homie would do. I would have laid Shorty out if she would have like tried to do something. And I think that would have been the most just outcome. It would have taught her a very important lesson about the realities of the world. And apparently she thinks slavery is still going. Like, she's trying to tell this grown black man who he can talk to, when he can talk, what he can say, who he can approach, where he can go in a whole other country. Like, Shorty, you're in Asia. You think you're a colonial master in Asia of a black American. That's extraordinary. But these are the kind of people we're dealing with. They're not just in Europe. We got them in America. We got them throughout the world. We have wicked people throughout the world. Now, here's the irony of this situation. So then I leave out, and mind you, anyone that's with me, and I advise you all to be the same way, be around people that you love and respect. Be around people that you love and respect. And when you're around people that you love and respect, then you will surely want to protect them, and they will want to protect you. So I was walking down a street, which again, this is a tourist area, so it has high foot traffic. And we're walking down the street, and there's a couple. And so I'm walking down, two of us walking down. And then there's a dude who's about 6'4" and a woman, presumably his wife. And the wife steps to the side to go around. And the dude, for some strange reason, thinks that he's going to just walk straight through Shorty that's next to me, like straight through her. It was extraordinary. But my good fortune is that I had ultra fast reflexes, and I pushed him out of the way and turned around. Oh, I was like, shut up. I was like, you see this small woman right here? You don't walk through her. And he's looking like, and I turn and look at his wife, and she's kind of looking like, but his wife knew what he had done wrong. She walked around. He, for some reason, thought he was going to walk straight through this small little woman, that for some reason she needs to scatter and get out of his way. For some reason, he has the right of way. For some reason, his presence on earth is more valid than her presence on earth. And as though, like, she has no protector. And that's why I tell all women, if you are not in the home of your father or in the home of your husband, you're not under any man, You are largely naked out here. You're in a very bad position. And you know what? That's probably good for you. If you're in them streets, you'll get treated like you're in them streets. But in this case, bro got ultra checked. And when I pushed him back, and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then I looked at his wife and she knew what time it was. And then he was about to say something. I pushed him to the side, like, bro, go that way. He got out the way and walked off. Why? Because in his mind, the arrogance, he was like, okay, I'll just walk through her and get away with it. Like she's not even a factor in his sick mind. That's number one. And then number two, when you let these people go unaccountable, they continue with these activities. And that's why I no longer, you know, if I'm walking down a narrow sidewalk, I'm not about to get off the sidewalk and walk in the flower bed or on the grass for you, woman I've never met, for you, dude I don't know, for you, elderly couple that's not a part of my culture. And when I say my culture, I'm not talking about black people, I'm talking about the saints. So, anyways, I asked Shorty, I said, why do you think bro just tried to walk through you? Like that was crazy. And it was weird too, because he could have tried to walk through me, but he like, nah, I'll take the small woman. And I was like, what was bro thinking? She was like, they're arrogant. They think that they're everything. He says they have a superior, she says they have a superiority complex. And it's correct. And I adjusted. I adjusted back to where it should be, which is like you are a subhuman. You are a devil on earth. You are a vicious, dangerous animal that needs to be controlled and probably eliminated. That kind of a mentality. It is a poison on the earth. And so, anyways, I want you all calibrated not to get yourself in trouble, and don't blame me for your foolish decisions. Be a man, make your decision and live with it. But I want to calibrate you all. Just move it up a notch. Be a notch meaner, a notch more ruthless. And I'm not talking about in general. I'm talking about when you're dealing with wicked people or strangers. Because here's the thing I want you guys to consider. That woman who got at the homie foul and basically threw salt in his game, even though it had nothing to do with her, she inserted herself into his life. I had to say, if you did her dirty, that would be 100% her fault, no one else's, because here's why. If I were in your position, I would know that she has proactively reached out to engage me. And me, I would like to leave a mark. I can be remarkable, I can leave a good mark, or I can leave a scar. But I'm going to make sure you remember me. If you want to voluntarily enter the United States of Marquettica, if you think you're going to come to Marquettadelphia or Marquettafornia and cause havoc, I got something to teach you. And it's going to be a harsh lesson. It's going to be a very harsh lesson because you decided to insert yourself where you don't belong. So I have every right to react with extreme prejudice because you wanted this. You could have just walked by. I don't know you. You don't know me. I don't want to know you. And here's the worst thing. Her misinterpretation of him being creepy, and I don't think that was a misinterpretation. I think that was her trying to control. She's a nasty, disgusting, white liberal feminist, which is a evil to society. And she was trying to control the black man and all men because she's with a beta male. That's why he let her behave that way, even though she puts both of them at risk unknowingly. Because I basically told bro, like, hey, if you see them, call me immediately. I don't care what time it is. Call me twice in case my phone is on do not disturb. Like, I definitely want to pull up. You hear me? 1,000%. I want to pull up. Absolutely. I told him I'll put on my running shoes and run full speed. I'm showing up. And when they experience what I have to give, they're going to be confused because they're like, who's this guy? And paradoxically, it'll be the most appropriate level of confusion because the homie that experienced her interjecting into his good life, he had to have been thinking, who's this broad? So they'll get exactly what they were seeking, and they should. So I want to encourage each and every one of you, especially the good people, number one, to travel in tribes, and number two, to make sure that you increase your ruthlessness and your meanness just one good notch. Because you are in a world with people that are extremely dishonest, disingenuous, ruthless, mean, ill-mannered, and all the rest of it. I promise you, you cannot get on playing the game fairly with people who are cheating constantly and exclusively. You can't get on anyway. Come on now. May I acknowledge Mr. Buck? He writes, I feel this, Mr. Burton. I had to stop saying excuse excuse me, and holding doors open. Bro, I'm trying to tell you, man. And I don't care who thinks I'm rude. I don't care who thinks I'm rude. Imagine you do a favor for someone who just walks past you and won't even make eye contact, much less even acknowledge or say thank you. Guys, most people aren't grateful for the good among us. Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%, Brody. Absolutely. Dominic writes, it's evil to be good to evil people, end quote, MDB. That is correct. It is evil to be good to evil people. That is right. That is wholly correct. I remember when I was a young fool, I didn't realize that giving change to some persons who were homeless and drug addicts was probably a bad thing. Imagine they now have funding for their drug habit, and what are the wicked things they can do while they're hyped up on various drugs, bath salts and pills and heroin, and I've enabled them, or they've used the money even for food, and I've kept this wicked person alive another day when really they should wither from the earth. It is evil to be good to bad people. Yes. And remember, oppositely, be good to good people. We have a 3 sentence Bible. Number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people. I do